2026 School Board Meeting of the East Penn School Board of Directors. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all. Okay. And starting with our agenda, there are no requests to address the board this evening. So with that said, we'll move right along, and I'll turn it over to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Allen?
Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Klotz.
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
Ms. Price. Mrs. Stiavelli.
Aye.
Dr. Whitney.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. And with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Campbell. The report.
Good evening. I hope that everyone's summer is off to a positive start. I wanted to start off my update this evening with just wrapping up some celebrations from the most recent school year. The first is we would like to congratulate and recognize Director Jill Keebler and the Emmaus High School Theater Department on receiving the Schiff Award for Prejudice Reduction, and that recognition came from the Jewish Federation of the Lehigh Valley. This particular honor recognizes the high school theater department's meaningful work surrounding their fall production of The Diary of Anne Frank and its powerful message of understanding, empathy, and respect. So we certainly extend our gratitude to Sherry Spark and Rabbi Shore for their support and partnership throughout the journey. And again, I'm incredibly proud of the work of our director as well as our students. I'd also like to recognize several high school students who recently completed the National German exam. And if you recall, at our most recent board meeting, we had some hearty discussion about world languages, and many of us reminisced on our own experiences, and we're incredibly proud of 4 Emmaus High School students who were recognized for their outstanding performance, again, on the National German exam. Those individuals are Jill Curry, Ian Honschied, Mina Mutaya, and Alexa Shaw. Congratulations to all of them for their outstanding achievement. We're also very proud to announce that the Emmaus High School JV academic team recently placed 2nd overall at the 2026 Quiz Bowl Alliance National Competition that was held in New Jersey just recently. Our team members included Captain Laura Drebit, and then team members Justin Chan, Jackson and Tyler Yengar, Robert Lupinetsky, and also academic team president and varsity captain Mina Mutaya for her leadership of the entire Quiz Bowl team. If you've been out in the community recently, particularly at the Saucon Valley Promenade shops, you may have noticed that the members of the Shoemaker Art Club have been added again, led by art teacher Mr. Schreck. The Shoemaker Art Club recently showcased their artistic talents by creating a summer movie mural at the AMC Theater at the Promenade Shops. Their mural features artwork from Toy Story 5, Moana, Spider-Man, and many other great summer movies. And so we certainly appreciate and enjoy seeing our students' artwork in the community. A few reminders that our libraries at the secondary level are open. We have modified schedules, so we encourage students who might want to borrow materials from our libraries to take a look at those schedules. And any students who are entering 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for the upcoming school year, we do have a summer reading program. The information regarding that program is available on each of our school websites. Also, a reminder to our entire school community that our East Penn Summer Food Program, that's sponsored by a great partnership with the Emmaus Rotary, continues throughout the summer. We have pickup locations at Emmaus, here actually at the administration building, as well as Lower Macungie Middle School. And we encourage families in the district to check out our district website for those specific pickup times. We make it really simple and convenient for families. And then the final piece is the final piece of information that I have is certainly a bittersweet one. Tonight is the final board meeting for Janine Allen, who will be retiring from East Penn at the end of this month. She has served in the role of executive assistant and board secretary for the past 12 years here in East Penn. We will certainly miss her organization, her patience, her flexibility, her kindness, and probably most importantly, her great sense of humor. We wish her the best in her upcoming retirement, and we also welcome with open arms Ms. Miranda Ortiz, who will be taking over that role on July 1st, but she's joining us tonight. And for those who are here in our audience, we invite you to grab a sweet treat in honor of Janine's retirement. And since there's so few of us, I think we might get 5 cupcakes. So I'm kind of excited. But again, congratulations, Janine. We will miss you, but super excited for you in the great times that you have ahead. Thank you.
Any additional comments, questions? Yes, Dr. Levinson?
I wasn't sure at what point in the meeting we might get a chance to express our gratitude to Ms. Allen, but Dr. Campbell provided a great lead-in for that and mentioned many of the things that I would attribute to her. I've known her for the last 8 years, 4 of those as board president, and I can certainly appreciate her innate ability to anticipate what I was going to ask and when I was going to ask it with regard to protocols and whatnot. So I always appreciated her awareness and organization. And like Dr. Campbell said, I think she has a tremendous sense of humor. And I always enjoyed hearing about her expanding set of grandchildren. And I'm sure that's going to keep her well occupied come retirement in a few days. So thank you again.
Ms. Klotz?
So I would also like to express my appreciation to Miss Allen. Thank you so much. You were so welcoming. One of the first friendly faces, everybody was friendly, okay, guys? But one of the first faces that I got to know, that I saw when I became a school board director, and you have just been pleasant and kind and welcoming the entire time, even in Wegmans. So I'm very happy for you and your family, and I'm sad for us for missing you. And Miranda, I'm very excited to get to know you, and I'm sure that you will also be just wonderful. So welcome and goodbye at the same time.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Jankowski?
So I'll keep the train moving. I've been here 8 years too, and I have to say Janine was one of the key components of getting acclimated to becoming a board member. And as of recently, as a week or two ago, she's still making sure we're staying on task for the things we need to do. So good luck with that, Miranda. But it's been great getting to know you, and I'm excited for you and for what comes next, and excited for you, Miranda. So we look forward to the July meeting with you. So thank you.
It's got me on speed dial.
So do I.
Yes, Ms. Price?
I just want to add my appreciation as well, and I had heard about how wonderful and welcoming you were before I even came to work with you. So I'm lucked out with having my seat assignment right next to you. I appreciate you helping me out with technical difficulties or just kind of helping me stay on track, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks.
All right, yeah. Mr. Kelly?
Miss Allen, thank you so much for the continual guidance and support
I
and
got through the
reminders.
first couple without tears.
It would probably be me that would make you cry. There's so many emails of Chris's favorite, but thank you very much. I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
Yes. I was like, who goes first?
Go round robin.
Ms. Diovelli.
Miss Allen, I just wanted to echo what everyone was saying. I really appreciate everything you've done for me as a new board member, just from the first phone call, welcoming me and getting everything in place. And it's just been a joy, and congratulations on your retirement, and wish you all the best.
Dr. Whitney?
Nothing to add, except you will be missed, and thank you, as everyone has said, thank you for taking, new school board directors who have no clue what they're coming in for and immediately making us feel like we know what we're doing, right? And that's an art, and that's a gift, and you are really, truly wonderful in this role, and congratulations on your retirement. And Miranda, I look forward to working with you. Thank you so much for taking us over.
It's really quick. You have to stop crying, Miss Allen, because we're all gonna cry. So please stop.
All right, so I'm not going to make it any better. Sorry. But I just want to say to you, thank you for everything, for all of the emails, for all the holding my hand through all the stuff that I've inherited lately. And I really appreciate the smiles, the candy, the pens, the notebooks, because I always am asking for notebooks. But more than anything else, I appreciate and am grateful for your spirit and for how you make everyone individually feel so special. We all feel like Janine's almost like my best friend. We all feel that, and that speaks to your heart and your appreciation for the job that you do so professionally and with so much integrity. And that will greatly be missed. I might show up at your door like, Janine, it's me. Just say hi to me. And so I just want to say thank you. Miranda, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have you and can't wait to get to know you better. And, thank you both. Thank you both. All right.
Well, I'm not recanting my retirement.
We know. Understood. All right. Moving on. Item 4, under curriculum, item A, I'd like a motion, please.
Move. Second.
All right.
Who made the first motion? Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Yes,
I do.
Ms. Price?
I'm not sure if we're there yet, but under item B.
We're on A. Okay. So with that said, Ms. Allen?
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson,
Aye.
Ms. Price,
Aye.
Mrs. Diovelli,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right, next under curriculum, item B, I'd like a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Ms.
Yeah.
Price?
I did enjoy reading all the curriculum resources, and I was really impressed with the variety of authors and the diverse authors under the ELA section. I did have a question about, I noticed that the percentage of diverse authors was much greater under the optional resources that the teachers were able to select rather than the required resources. So I was just curious to hear more about that and how those are selected. And do students have, well, I guess I'll just leave it that first.
I believe the resources are, those lists are generated through the curriculum committees that include teachers as part of that process. And so you'll see there's core readings that are consistently used across courses and/or grade levels. And then the optional readings certainly are those resources that students will have choice.
Are there opportunities for librarians or students or community members to give input on that? Or that's the protocol is through the committee, the curriculum committee?
I will say the curriculum committee, absolutely. I believe our librarians certainly have a critical role, perhaps in adding to those resources, and certainly have a very critical role in terms of resources that are available at the library. But our level 1 curriculum work typically consists of teachers, representatives from the Office of Teaching and Learning and/or building leaders, and not community members as part of that level 1 curriculum writing process.
Thank you. My next question is, so for where there are teacher recommended readings, how are students and parents able to view that? And are they able to provide or to reach texts outside of their grade level? How does that look?
Yes, many of those texts that are on there will certainly be provide differentiation in terms of student choice. Did you ask I think your question was how will students know about those, or how will they be? Typically at the secondary level, it would be part of our course syllabi that would be presented by the teacher at the beginning of the course.
And do they have an option to go outside of their grade level to, like, if they're in 10th grade, are they able to look at the 11th grade reading options? Or?
So typically, they would just be aware of, for the required readings, it would be those on the grade level list. And that the intention there was certainly to provide some consistency in terms of learning experiences and novels that our students are being exposed to at each grade level. So might they have an opportunity to see the list and to perhaps, read some of those others? Certainly they would, but we would stick to the required list for the course or grade level.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
I had a couple questions about the world language pilot. Are we approving that to be run next year? Is that?
So in terms of a pilot, we are running the program as a pilot, and so Mr. Fisher, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe it requires board approval.
Okay.
But what we indicated is we always notify the board, again, what we've done in the public presentation. We also notified the board and the community of the pilot of ELA resources at the elementary and 6th grade level. And I believe what we heard Ms. Whitman share at the last meeting is that certainly we will look at the information in terms of how students perform in that Intro to World Language course in 8th grade to make determinations as to if that is a course that we would permanently run then moving forward.
So do you guys know who is being picked for the pilot?
Yeah, so there are a variety of data points that our school teams are looking at to identify those students who will be in interventions, and then as the interventions end, we have a criteria as to which students would be selected, and we'll be working with those students and families over the summer.
And is there like a clear measure of success that you guys have been able to quantify for the pilot to be able to make decisions on whether the pilot continues or?
I think certainly a measure that we would be looking at would be how students perform in the course. So course grades would be one piece, performance on assessments. I don't believe that we've yet talked about other measures, but there might be a piece that could be feedback from students who are engaged in the course in terms of, did we hit the mark of providing them with exposure to those 3 language areas and feeling like as if the students are better informed to make a decision about what world language they might take then as a freshman in high school.
Okay.
But again, I'm conjecturing a bit. I don't know that tool has already been developed.
And will that then be represented back to the board at some point about how the pilot went?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I think that
Feedback on perceived success of the pilot and intentions to continue to run it, yes, will be reported back to the board.
And so if there is, what decisions would the board then be asked to make at the conclusion of the pilot, depending on
It would typically be mid-year to very early spring when the board looks at middle-level program of studies and provides feedback in terms of if a new course would be added.
Okay. And so at what point would we then hear what, like how you picked the students for the pilot, why it was like of interest for them, and what measures that you guys are going to look at in order to?
Certainly, as the team works to continue to, the course is developed, but as the team works throughout the summer and leading up to the school year, I can provide the board via a board report with the information regarding the general criteria that we're using to identify the students who are most appropriate to move into that Intro to World Language course.
That'd be great. Okay. And I just had one quick question about some of the stage 1 curriculums, like with the world language. How do these revisions move our district beyond like coverage of content and towards more critical thinking and engagement for students? Like what expectations do we have as we rewrite these curriculums that will kind of beef up the student engagement? Does that make sense?
Somewhat, I'll say, reflecting on the curriculum presentations and the teachers who responded to questions at our previous meeting in June, I think you heard in particular Mr. Bisignani speaking to the importance of students understanding and having an awareness of the culture of the people in various regions, including but not limited to the language that's spoken, and also students engaging and using the language in conversation. Certainly that might look different in level 1 or 2 versus level 3 or 4, but I think those are two key components in terms of how what we are hoping to see in terms of changes in student behavior as a result of working through the curriculum.
Okay. So as a parent or a student, like a before and after, what I'm hearing is more, and what I heard presented was more project-based learning. If I remember what Kevin said, there'd be more activity in terms of projects, and I'm just curious as to how we would kind of track that or monitor that to make sure that's happening.
I think certainly a goal is always use and application of the language. We heard our teachers speak at the last curriculum presentation in terms of certainly as you're learning the basics of a language, there will certainly be some opportunities for, I'm going to say, more of the rote memorization of key vocabulary terminology, some of the memorization followed by application of verb conjugation that are maybe some of the essentials or basics of learning a language. But ultimately what we want to see then is students engaging with it and beginning to use that language in conversation.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Diavelli?
I just had a question regarding the ELA list as well. I don't know if I hit on the only example of this, but I noticed the lottery is on there 3 times for 8th grade, 11th grade honors and as required, and then 12th grade honors. And I guess my question is that intentional, where maybe they have a cursory reading as optional in 8th grade and then delve into it more deeply in 11th grade? I don't know if that's the only example of that or if there's other works that are on there multiple times with multiple levels.
Yeah, it could be. I can certainly follow up to get you more specifics on that, but I think what you described could be very likely in which it might appear as an optional reading, and then again, those required core readings would be done, would be facilitated learning of students in the class reading that particular novel and going through certain literary elements or story elements as part of that analysis piece.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Also, under curriculum. You have to take a vote. Oh, yeah, almost forgot.
Yep.
All the questions. Ms. Allen?
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Excuse me, Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Also, under curriculum, number 4, item C, our administration will provide an update on flexible instructional days. And so I'm now going to turn over the meeting to Dr. Campbell for an introduction. Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
Yes, I'm going to start off, and again, we have intended this to be perhaps a discussion, an overview. I can appreciate that when we have slides, sometimes it seems like a more formal presentation, but the purpose of the slides were really to organize some of the information that we as an administrative team would like to share with the board and obviously the larger community. So this is about one of our most beloved acronyms in the district and community, FID, which stands for Flexible Instructional Day. I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of background, some things that are not explicitly stated on this slide. So this past spring of 2026, a committee of teachers and administrators met to discuss the vision for the role of technology in our classrooms in East Penn. That should sound familiar to our school board and to our community. You might recall earlier in the year when we had great discussion about it came up in the context of the elementary iPads, but we talked about the fact that we have groups that continue to meet to clarify, refine our vision for how do we want technology to be used in our classrooms, and how is technology being used in our classrooms, and is there a misalignment, and what changes do we need to make? So, as part of the ongoing dialogue regarding how technology is used, one of the changes that we will be making for the upcoming school year is for school-issued devices at the elementary level, those devices will no longer be sent home with students. So again, that is a change that will happen for the upcoming school year, and it impacts only elementary students only in grades K through 5. They will still have a district-issued device that will be theirs to use and access throughout the day, but those devices will not be sent home. Again, a change for elementary only. We will continue to allow students in grades 6 through 12 to take their devices home with them next school year. And so while many elementary teachers, as part of this discussion, indicated that students did not need their device at home, one of the main reasons that we sent devices home at a certain point in the school year at the elementary level is so that students would have access to assignments on a flexible instructional day. And so as a team, as a district team, we needed to have further conversation about that in terms of, okay, how might the routines for elementary students on a flexible instructional day change now that students won't have their devices with them? So we recognize that there were some recent changes in legislation that provided school districts with options for remote, and this is the legislation describes it as virtual or remote learning. And that legislation is sort of beyond the traditional flexible instructional day. And so as a result of those changes in legislation, East Penn is proposing a shift to remote learning days for the 2026-2027 school year. For most, this change will be a shift in semantics. Instead of using an FID for inclement weather situations, you would get the call at 5:15 a.m. and it would say, we will use a remote learning day. The purpose of the discussion this evening is simply to explain the philosophical shift from a flexible instructional day to a remote learning day. We're not yet at the point as a district team in which we're going to get into the specifics of the actual learning activities, but we're keeping tonight's discussion really at a high level. So again, some of what I just explained is on the slide that's in front of us in terms of a side-by-side comparison of a flexible instructional day versus a remote learning day. So you can see on the left, FID was a provision that was added to the school code during the time of COVID. Specifically, it was in about July of 2019, and this provision, the time, the flexible instructional day, and the activities met the instructional day requirement that is in the Pennsylvania School Code. The flexible instructional day process is also very methodical and laid out, and there is an application and approval process through PDE with very specific timelines. The FID allows for synchronous or asynchronous instruction or activities. Technology may be used. A flexible instructional day also allows for physical learning activities on paper to be used as part of an FID. And again, according to the provisions within the school code for a flexible instructional day, a district can use a maximum of 5 of them. So again, if you think about the timing of the legislation, the FID was, I'm going to say, somewhat new to the scene in terms of recognizing that there might be reasons that school districts have to very quickly on a dime flip from in-person instruction to a different mode. But again, the law was very clear in terms of a process through which districts had to go. I think a lot has changed in education over the past, let's say over the past 7 years. And recently, in March of 2024, there were further changes to the Pennsylvania School Code that provided flexibility by allowing school districts, and the code says school districts can now change the mode of instructional delivery. And by changing the mode, those changes will still adhere to the instructional day requirement through the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The board likely also recalls that as part of that provision, PDE did provide school districts with the option to meet that compulsory schooling by either 180 days or 990 hours. It's no longer an and, it could be one way or another. So again, I will describe it generally as the school code providing greater flexibility to local school districts in terms of how you're going to meet the mandates of school requirements. And so a remote learning day, very similar to a flexible instructional day, allows for synchronous, asynchronous. It allows for technology to be used, technology to not be used. The real fundamental difference is a remote learning day, separate and apart from a flexible instructional day, gives the local school districts much more flexibility in terms of what students are actually doing as part of that process. And it gives the school districts much more flexibility in terms of perhaps being responsive to changes such as taking technology home or not taking technology home, or what's happening in their local community, and not being tied to the very specific obligations that you perhaps wrote into a flexible instructional day that was approved and then is in effect for several years. And so for those who are perhaps hearing or listening, I should say, and if you're thinking, gee, a flexible instructional day doesn't sound very different to me than a remote learning day, that is because, in essence, we as an educational team agree with that, and others in the county and across the Commonwealth have seen the benefit of working under the provision of a remote learning day because it does give the district some greater flexibility. And so we have also seen many school districts who are now referring to their inclement weather days, not a snow day, but they're using the terminology a remote day or a virtual day as opposed to FID because they can operate with greater flexibility. And so again, in terms of setting the stage for the upcoming school year, East Penn is proposing that we would use remote learning days. We will continue to use them as an option. We internally would keep ourselves to that maximum of 5 that we did for an FID, although under the provisions of the school code, you don't have to, but internally, we think that's a reasonable place from which to operate, because ultimately we prioritize and see the greatest benefit in in-person instruction in which our students are working with our teachers. But in the event that we would use our 2 snow days that are in the calendar, and we then have additional inclement weather days, we would employ or use a remote learning day and use that language instead of FID. And so now Doug's going to talk, Dr. Povolitis is going to talk a little bit more in terms of we learned that there's going to be a shift in language, but what will we see in terms of changes in practice, in terms of student expectations for work on those days? And again, recognizing that students are not going to have their devices at the elementary. I think elementary families may see some changes. Secondary families will still see very similar learning plan to what we had in place before.
Okay, thank you. So continuing on with this, if you look at this slide, now you have a side-by-side of what the elementary plan would be under remote learning days and then what the secondary plan would be. As already communicated, the secondary plan would remain the same. It would just now be a remote learning day. For elementary, students in grades K to 5 would not have access to their devices anymore. And so with that, we need to shift more so than, of course, the secondary level to make some changes. Students will have access to learning activities that we're working through, and we'll talk through that a little bit and the next steps in that process that will be completed without the use of technology. Teachers will still be available to respond to any questions that students might have. So at the elementary level, we're shifting from the devices going home and everything being done on that device in a remote learning day to activities that are done without the technology. At the secondary plan, if you look to the second column, students in 6 to 12 will continue to have access to their devices at home. There will be no change from what we did have approved in the FID plan. It will now be used under the remote learning plan, so really just a change in language, and teachers, of course, are still available to respond to any questions. As far as next steps, of course, tonight was really just to talk to you about the philosophical shift and reasons and justification for the move from a flexible instructional day to a remote learning day. So at the elementary level, there's some work that needs to be done. So the next steps is our grade level leaders will work with our Office of Teaching and Learning to develop these activities. At the grade level, some of that work has already started, but now the collaboration begins to work through exactly what will happen. The activities, the expectations will all then be shared once they work through the process and the leaders work through that process, including teacher leaders. At that point, we will share in August, one of the professional development days, exactly what the expectations will be. The communication, which is so important and key, that communication plan to families will also be shared at that time. We will also communicate with the elementary families at the beginning of the school year to let them know this shift, as well as meet the teacher events and continuously communicate the change and the expectations in that shift. And so hopefully this was helpful for you to understand our shift from the FIDs to remote learning.
I think the greatest takeaway is that while the language or the model is changing, the district is still continuing to employ an alternative model to instruction on inclement weather days after we've typically exhausted our 2 snow days. So I don't want the takeaway to be FIDs are going away and we will no longer have an opportunity if we have to close schools for weather for students to be engaged in learning and for that learning to count as instruction. That's not true. Again, we are just shifting the model that is allowable through PDE under which we function on those days. And we will be using different terminology. We will call it a remote learning day. Again, tonight was really about sharing that approach with the board, with our community who's listening, and certainly we recognize that as the new school year approaches, we have to do continued and regular communication with our families, particularly with our elementary families, so they know what to expect, when to expect it, and what those days will look like as we continue to work with teachers on that process.
Mr. Jankowski.
Thanks for this explanation, and this is really just, I guess, just for my own rationalization of this. So why would any school do a FID? Because, I mean, this is essentially an FID without meeting the more stringent obligations with the PDE. And, you know, with my youngest this year, who was in elementary, I mean, basically this is what he got for the, I can't remember, 1 or 2 FID days. So I guess this isn't really for what we're going to do. I mean, I think this makes sense. It's just what was the basis for having the remote learning day change in '24, and why are they even, like, what school would even consider doing an FID when there seems to be less obligation to the state if you do a remote day?
Yeah, so as we're talking with other districts, many are making the same shift. You know, of course, we don't have a crystal ball, but I would expect more and more would shift in this way. Back to what Dr. Campbell said in the introduction, you know, FIDs came out back in 2019. And so part of the law and the ability to shift to this, there was a very rigorous process because people didn't really understand how to use technology at home and how would we connect and how would teachers communicate expectations. And so I think, this is just my opinion, I think they needed to have a rigorous process because people didn't really understand how to work remotely. We're in a very different time now. And so there's a different, I think, different view of what remote learning can look like, what needs to be part of remote learning, and what expectations need to look like to make a day successful. So I think all of those pieces together, I think you will see some more people shift in that way.
So it seems like, you know, with the FID, there was definitely more oversight from what kind of schoolwork was being conducted in order to meet that, you know, learning day requirement. Whereas with the remote day, that's gone, and there's no state oversight. So how, I mean, is there any type of oversight over what is being done? Or, I mean, it seems like a school can just say, well, we gave them a one-page worksheet to do, and, well, it counts as a day, so we're not getting tagged with another snow day. I mean, I'm just not clear. I understand, and I'm not. Maybe, I mean, obviously you guys weren't there. You guys didn't make this. I just don't understand why they would have two, and what happened that the PDE now thinks, well, I'm just going to leave it to the school districts and I trust them. Not that I don't trust you guys. I'm just not sure I understand why they would still have two different modes of remote learning.
Yeah. I do think that it will be phased out again, but I said, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I can answer one of those pieces for sure. With the FID, they didn't really talk to you about how many worksheets are you going to give. It was more about what's your communication plan? Are you using devices? How are you getting them to students? What does that look like? How will the students know they're working remotely? That was more of the plan we had to produce. Yeah. Anymore, that's not as difficult as was in 2019.
I got you.
So I think that's the shift. And because it was part of legislation, I think you'll just see people start shifting away from it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think a big piece as well of the FID application, to Dr. Povolitis' point, was what school districts are going to do to accommodate students who don't have access to a device. And so, you know, there had to be thought given to students who might not have a device, or let's suppose there's widespread power outages and students couldn't access their assignments online. And so, you know, the process again, 7 years ago, like really forcing school districts to think through those what ifs, whereas now many people operate from that position of having well thought out learning plans for inclement weather days. And, you know, in our case, for example, recognizing that we are intentionally planning for activities, knowing that our students will not have their devices. And so preparing meaningful learning activities for them in the absence of technology. Like, we're actually being intentional in terms of sort of not using the technology as part of those remote learning days.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think you're dumb not to make the switch because it's, you know, like I said, there's less obligation. And I would expect that most, if not all, schools are going to end up doing the same thing. So, yeah, makes sense.
Dr. Whitney?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate that you're keeping sort of internally a limit of 5, or trying to at least. I think that's a good idea, right? Obviously, you don't want this to get out of control. So just in terms of process, and I know you're still working it out, in terms of these activities that will be sent home, is it my understanding, right, you sort of like convene groups of teachers that will determine towards the beginning of the year sort of what the activities will be when we activate remote learning mode, and the students, the assumption is they will already have these packets or whatever activities.
Correct.
And sort of like, okay, we're on remote learning mode, so you go to activity 1, right?
Correct. You'll be doing the activities that are designed for the first remote learning day, and that's where we talked about the communication will be really important. Students will have access to it. It will not be the first time that they see what the expectations are. Teachers will work through the students as far as what to expect, what exactly they have to complete, and then when that day is called, they'll then know what they need to do.
And do you anticipate a revisitation of what the activities are and any kind of regular cadence throughout the year? Or is it sort of like they'll be sort of set at the beginning of the year, and then for that year they'll be determined, or do you know that yet?
We don't really know all of the details yet, but I think we're talking through, what would look like, for the first one, and then we'll have the second one that may, continue on with that work, and then the third and fourth if need be.
Okay.
We recognize that it's not something you can share with students or families we talked about communication at the beginning of the year. August, very early September is our Meet the Teacher events. You can't share it then and say in February, and don't forget about this. So part of that, the importance of ongoing communication.
Yeah. And just one more question. So you said a lot of districts are moving in this direction, but it's been out for 2 years, I guess, is when they passed this change. So have you talked to any districts that have already implemented this? And if so, any lessons learned? Or
Yes, lessons were go this route.
Okay.
And really, seriously, we really follow the same as what we did with flexible instructional days. We've learned that process, but really can use this model.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Ms. Diavelli?
I actually had the same question as Dr. Whitney regarding the learning activities, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5 under personnel. Next on the agenda is item 5A, personnel items. There was a correction to the 2026-2027 non-bargaining unit salaries in Exhibit D. The correct salary for Rachel Herring is $64,188. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions? Ms. Allen?
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Under business operations, item 6, next we have, actually, if there's no I'm going to try to combine if there's no objections from the board. I'd like to take a motion for items A, contracts, and B, authorized signers together. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
As long as I can still ask questions about A.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Second?
All right. Any comments or questions?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
I do have a question. Just reading through the contracts, I see that both Stepping Stones and ABA Support Services LLC provide services for children with special needs and autism. And I was just interested why the overlap and what are the benefits and challenges of using two distinct services. It looks like under the positions that are listed on both contracts, they're maybe slightly different names, but they look to be similar positions. One is Pennsylvania-based, one's Massachusetts-based. So I was just curious why we have two very similar contracts and what are the benefits and challenges of doing that?
Access to hard-to-find resources
Okay.
and individuals who have a very special certification and training in terms of a strong behavioral background and certification.
So like listed on here is the board-certified behavior analyst, for example, and that's something that's on both. Is there one that you tend to go with that's the go-to, like the Pennsylvania one, but if they're not available, then the Massachusetts one is a backup, or is that not how?
I don't think so. I don't know that there's one that we tend to go to. I can follow up with our director of special education, but again, I believe it really, and although the perhaps master agreement is located in Massachusetts, they do have resources that are then located across the country, and so the individual would have the Pennsylvania certification to be able to work with our students.
So it's really just a matter of who has the personnel available.
Correct.
In our area.
Yep, and having, you'll find, so for example, you will note that for our students with IEPs, we will often have contracts with multiple vendors. You'll find something different, you'll find something similar, I should say, when we think about our nursing services, when we think about those specialized resources that we provide to our students, sometimes in a one-on-one basis. We oftentimes have contracts with multiple vendors so that we have flexibility and quick access to those resources when we need them.
All right. And Ms. Price, if it makes you feel better, I had that same question. And I had to think about it, when we start talking about entities that, do business all over the country, especially now with access to the internet. And I think my initial thought was, well, why aren't we getting services locally? But then I had to think, I myself deal with companies that service me right here, but maybe located like in a different state. But I had that question, so great question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any others? All right, Ms. Allen?
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Levinson?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
And that is my last roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. My last thank you. All right. And item 7, under other educational entities, Dr. Whitney will now provide a report on the most recent CLIU board meeting. Take it away, Dr. Whitney.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. I feel like I should cede my time to Janine to do another roll call, but we'll have to leave it as is. Yes, thank you. This is a report on the CLIU board meeting from June 15th, last Monday. Mostly routine business, a few items of note. We received an executive session, annual safety and security report from the IU. We heard an update on an event I've mentioned here a couple times, the Carbon Lehigh Special Needs Children's Foundation's golf tournament, their major fundraiser of the year. One day before the tournament actually occurred, they were already at $23,450 in fundraising, and so still more to come, I think, which is a great return. That was higher than last year, so it sets a new high for that event, so that was wonderful news. We heard about a collaboration with the Bucks County IU on bringing a fabrication lab to the CLIU for a day where all students and staff got to come in and spend a day experimenting, making, prototyping, all of the things within this fabrication lab that the Bucks County IU had obtained through grant funding. And that was a great, really successful event, something they intend to repeat again. We heard a board agenda software. I think we're all aware here. There's changes to board docs, and districts and IUs are having to figure out which board software they're planning to use. It sounds like a majority of the districts within the CLIU are going with Keystone Agenda, but the CLIU looked at it and looked at cost and looked at what their needs were in terms of a board agenda software system, and they decided to continue to use basically an in-house system that they've created to convey board documents that seems to be working well. So that'll save a lot of cost and just keep things easier. We heard a presentation about the recent graduation celebrations that take place across the IU from the early intervention programs, so the littles graduating into their kindergarten year, center-based programs, and then the Project Search, which is a work-based program. We saw a wonderful video summarizing all of those celebrations, and it's always just an incredible time. You know, the students that graduate, even the littles in the early intervention program, it's a huge achievement for them to get there. So it was a really, really feel-good moment there. And then two more things. We saw the winning entries from a really creative event that the IU has started, which is an AI art show. So the premise here is taking students who may not have the physical capacity to make art on their own, visual art, paintings, whatever, sculpture, and the students, and this is all the way down to the early intervention, 3 and 4 year olds, all the way through high school age. They have different divisions in this art competition, and so the point is for the students to use whatever communication device they have, whatever voice-operated device, to come up with really, really creative and imaginative prompts, and then let AI create the artwork that they've come up with. Right? And so we saw some of the winning entries, and then the staff of the CLIU gets to vote on all of the entries that get submitted. So there's first, second, third place for all these divisions of ages, and they were just incredibly creative, really, really cool pieces of art, and really an interesting use of AI that I had never considered before. And so it was really fascinating to see all of that. And so that's certainly an event they're going to continue, and something they're going to continue to do and foster with all ages, with students who might have physical limitations. And then finally, we reelected the current board officers, President George Williams from Whitehall Copley District, Sherry Haas, Vice President from the Palmerton District, and Gail Husak from Northern Lehigh as Treasurer. That's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Whitney. Any comments or questions? I had one. The AI art exhibit sounds amazing. Is that accessible to the public?
Well, it might be, actually. I'm not sure. We received, I can actually share, I will share, maybe it can be included in the minutes next time, a link to the winning entries at least. So you can at least see those. But it might be worth going to the CLIU website. It could be on there. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, moving on. Item 8, under announcements. This evening, we had an executive session where we discussed items of personnel and safety and security. Our next regular board meeting is on Monday, July 13th, 2026, right here at 7:30 p.m. And with no further ado, our meeting is adjourned.
Take a vote.
Oh,
Some of us might not want to adjourn, so you better take a vote.
I can't adjourn without a vote, you're right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're always in stuff.
Yes.
Go here.